Welcome to some new r/malicious compliance stories, where people comply to the letter, but not the spirit of a request. I hope you had a great day. The first story is called Just Find Space. I used to work for a national soda company. My job is to swing by stores several times a day and restock the shelves from supplies in the back rooms. 4th of July is by far the busiest day of the year, as most stores have big sales. At the time I worked, a common sale was 5 12-packs for $10. Anyhow, the problem each year is that there just isn't enough space in the store's back rooms to have enough product to last the entire day. So what should happen is that drivers do extra deliveries to keep products on the shelves. Well, my boss has decided he doesn't want to pay overtime on a holiday, so this year he has a plan. We will order more product than we have space for and put our products in areas reserved for other vendors and the store itself. So July 3rd, the load shows up. Right away, it is apparent that there's just way too much stuff, even if I use space I'm not supposed to. And the backroom manager is mad at me because my pallets are in the way of everyone else trying to get their stuff in and out. I call my boss and let him know this is never going to work and they need to come do buyback on some of the pallets. He tells me to make it work and hangs up. So I grab a pallet jack and walk the entire pallet out onto the floor of the store. The store has narrow aisles. I go to the soda aisle and drop off the pallet. It completely takes up the aisle. Customers can't walk in or out. Repeat a dozen times. Then I leave for the day. I get a call from my boss. He isn't happy with me. He wants me to go back to the store and somehow find space that doesn't exist. I tell him I have already had a few drinks and won't be driving anywhere. He tells me I'm fired and hangs up. Whatever, I've got other job offers. And now I can go hang out at my buddy's barbecue and watch fireworks. I get a call at 6 AM from my boss. He's swearing at me because we start at 4 AM on the 4th. I tell him he told me I was fired, so I'm at home sleeping in. He tells me he was just joking and I need to go to work now. I tell him that I've already taken an offer to work for a competing company. Not true, but he doesn't know. And they are paying me $5 more per hour than he is and 5 extra days PTO. If he wants me, then I want $6 more per hour and an extra 6 days of PTO. He swears at me and hangs up. Whatever, back to bed I go. 5 minutes later, my boss calls again. He tells me he will do that, but I have to leave now. The next story is called Break Compliance. I recently started working at a company specializing in high-end CNC work. Think aerospace, automotive and defense contracts that run in 3 shifts 24 hours a day so they can keep the machines running. When I started, I was told that employees were free to take their 30-minute paid lunch whenever they wanted. How nice, I thought, a company that's not micromanaging. After talking with some of the old-timers, I discovered the reason this policy was put back in place. A CNC machine is essentially an automated mill. You stick a metal billet or cast into it, it does some magic and a machine part is created. Lots of cuts made, holes drilled and tapped, all very precisely. This process can take minutes or hours based on how much/how precise machining takes place. Generally, the more expensive the part, the more time is spent on the machine. The story is that a new manager was hired several years ago and immediately set about improving production. Apparently, part of the grand plan was having everyone take their lunches at exactly the same time, so as to provide accountability. Since everyone was taking lunches at various times, the theory was that people taking 32 minutes instead of 30 was costing productivity and thus could be improved. No one actually had any record of these 32-minute breaks, but they must have been going on, right? Since most of the processes took longer than 30 minutes, people would take their breaks. They had just placed a part in, went on lunch and then came back to continue the job as the CNC machine worked through the time spent on break. The new system meant that people would take their lunches and the machines were left in downtime, the most dreadful thing an owner can imagine. No one there to put new parts into the machine means machines not running, which means parts are not being completed, which means money is not being made. People would stop work at precise lunchtime, regardless of if that meant the machine would stand idle without a part to work on. Machinists would arrive precisely 30 minutes later to start up again. Since the longer processes were the most affected, the most expensive parts were the heaviest hit. Production slumped, shipments got delayed, customers were angry, and eventually the new manager was fired. The policy was returned to its original, take it whenever, just please don't let the machine stop form. The third story is called Give It to Your Coworkers. This is from a previous job, where I worked as a cycle counter at an old factory, which went out of business 2 years after the story happened. My direct supervisor was unpredictable. He would throw temper tantrums if any of his employees didn't listen to him. Other times I was pretty sure that he had no idea how to do the job that he was assigned. He even went as far as to give another one of the cycle counters his password so that they could approve their own counts. There were a few stockroom clerks who would pretend that they didn't have any work so that they could spend all day doing personal things. Instead of checking their work to make sure that was true, like a supervisor should have, he approached me. Stockroom clerks 1 and 2 don't have any work to do. Yeah, and what do you want me to do about it? I'm wondering if you can give them the rest of your counts for today. They are not trained to do it, and if I give my work away, I won't have any for the rest of the day. Though I wouldn't mind going home early, I rode in with someone else who won't leave until 3. He sighed and left my office. I went out and did the actual counting for the afternoon. There's quite a bit of work to do once I was back at the computer, including checking the counts against what's supposed to be there. If the count is lower, I had to look at its history to make sure the parts don't have an alternative location or an incomplete checkout. I didn't make it back to my office before I was stopped by the stockroom clerks just outside of my office, who I got along with and who were good at their jobs. Supervisor is upset and on the verge of throwing a temper tantrum as he does. You should give the other stockroom people your work. So after I talked with him about it for a bit, I went back up to my office, called my staffing firm to clear it with them first. They okayed the order, so I went down and met supervisor at the desk of the other 2 stockroom clerks. I watched them start to blindly enter the counts into the computer. I sighed and went up to my office and played solitaire for the rest of the day. My supervisor walked by on a few instances and didn't say a word. The fallout was a bit boring. There was a good backlog of corrections to deal with, which mostly I had to. But a few weeks later, at the daily safety meeting, one of the head managers had stopped by to head it off. He discussed a few bullet points they added to the briefing. One of them was along the lines of, "And don't assign work to employees who aren't trained for it," while he was staring directly at the supervisor. Reprimands and write-ups were done in private, between the parties involved, so I didn't know whether or not he was written up for it. But he was in a very bad mood for the whole week after the actual situation, so I think he may have been. The last story is called Can't Pay Directly. Some 30 years ago, the police stopped my dad for a minor traffic violation, which meant a fine of $20. He pulled out his wallet and wanted to give the policeman a bill, settling the score on the spot. The policeman, however, was pity about my dad's do not care attitude. He told him he won't take the money and he'd have to transfer it via bank account, just to make some extra bureaucracy for him. This was back in the time before internet banking, i.e. my dad had to go to the bank to order a transfer. A transfer had a fee of 19 cents, so my dad sent them 1981 instead of the 20, as the fine is 20 and should not be 2019. The computer system could not process this, as the amount was not correct, and sent the money back automatically. A few days later, he received a payment reminder. He politely answered that he had already made the transfer, minus the cost of the transfer fee, as he could have paid in cash, but the policeman did not want the money. He then sent them 1914. The 20 minus twice the banking fee and minus the cost for the stamp. Of course, the automatic system sent the money right back again, as it was not the specified amount. The next reminder was answered by his lawyer, a family friend. He explained to them that he thinks my dad has the legal high ground. They paid it again, this time below 18. The money was transferred back again, and the police actually let the case rest. They thought this won't go anywhere, and that fixing the booking system to not send the money back would be too expensive. And with that, we end today's video. Let me know what you think about the stories. On a scale of 1 to 10, how would you rate the stories and today's video? I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, please don't forget to subscribe and hit the like button. And I hope you have a great day. Stay safe. Bye bye.